Welcome to Conscious Conversations, a place where East meets West, a place where conversations and ideas will challenge your minds, expand your consciousness, awaken your heart, and make you think more deeply about yourself and the world.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm Anthony Profeta here with Wes Gordon. How are you doing today, Wes?
Doing well.
Look very nice today. I love the tie.
Thank you.
You look really very sharp.
Cool.
So hope everything's going well, and I look forward to our conversation today. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about really who's responsible for our lives. And, you know, so many people go through life playing the victim, blaming everyone and everything for everything that's happening to them, everything that's going on in their life. And really, I firmly believe that there's no one that we can really blame the way our life is except for ourselves. I do believe it's our attitudes. I do believe it's our choices. I do believe it's the way we think and our perceptions and our beliefs and all of these things that create in us either, you know, the suffering, the misery, or the happiness, the joy, and all those things of life, which some people might call the blessings and curses of life. And, you know, sometimes they want to blame God for all the stuff that's coming their way, or they want to blame the government or the country they're in or the city they're in, or it's always, you know, the people around them that's the, you know, the reason for why things are the way they are for them. But I firmly believe that we cannot really be throwing the blame on anybody else except ourselves. And I believe that's really a huge eye-opening moment for people when they do begin to see that, hey, you know what? My life is the way it is because of me. And if it's not going the way I really want it to go, then I'm the one that has to do something about that. You know, if we're waiting for someone to sort of fix us, if we're waiting for someone to come give us a handout, if we're waiting for someone to save us in some sort of way, you know, we're going to be waiting there for a very long time.
No one's coming.
Unless we actually stand up and say, okay, you know what? I need to make something out of this, or I need to do better. Whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, I believe that it all really lies on ourselves. How about you?
That's interesting you should say that, because you're talking about victim mentality.
Yes.
Which we've heard that term a lot lately in the last few years.
Yeah.
But I have a question to you. At what age did this actually happen that you realized this different?
Oh, not for a long period of time. It was probably when I was in my early 30s.
Early 30s.
Yeah. But prior to that, you know, it was, you know, everybody else was
right.
The problem.
Right, because I remember when I was coming up through the ranks of the Tony Robbins self-improvement phase of my life, you know, eating healthy vitamins and trying to change my lifestyle. I was going around with this victim mentality, not realizing that was what was one of the things holding me back, which is a big thing, actually. Yes. But I was seeing it in other people, like I was telling you earlier, and I kept saying, oh, look at that poor person. They think all of that's against them. They have such a victim mentality. And I was real quick to point it out in my other people. And what I realized what happened was I realized, you know, weeks and months later, the reason I could see it so clearly is I was doing the same thing.
Yeah, they were mirroring it back.
Yeah, in different ways. You know, not exactly how they were doing it, but I was still being a victim.
Right.
Because I was always blaming something outside of myself for my problems. And I got to tell you, when you stop and realize and, you know, take a stand for being responsible for yourself, it's very empowering. Because then you begin to realize you don't have to be a victim.
Correct.
It's your choices and the way you think and your upbringing and programming. You have to analyze and look at it and realize, why am I seeing the world the way that I am? Yeah. Because just like you said, unknowingly, unconsciously, you were either creating yourself to be empowered or you were creating more of your victimhood.
Yeah. We're our best friend or worst enemy.
Calling it somebody else. Oh, it's your boss. It's your job. It's not enough money. Oh, I don't have a good enough car. Blah, 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 blah. And never actually stepping up to the plate and going, hey, no more.
Right.
I'm going to make this different somehow. Even if I got to take little baby steps, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. Yeah. And man, the power that comes with that realization is really, I mean, life-changing, life-altering.
And I do believe it's baby stepping it at times, because, it's just really about, I think taking action. If we see that our life isn't really the way we want it to be going, or if we see we're not happy where we are, then really just do something about it. Just don't sit there and complain. And like you're saying, say, well, it's his fault, her fault, the boss's fault, it's my job, I'm not getting paid enough, or I don't have a car to get me to the job I really want, or whatever it is. That those are all excuses.
Right.
And as soon as we're doing that, we're just really making our own life even worse or more miserable.
Yes, but it's very addictive and comfortable to be able to hide behind somebody else as the fault.
Oh, absolutely.
So you feel like somehow you're exonerating yourself, because if the world was better, I would be better.
Right.
So you never really step up and go, wait a minute, I have personal power, especially if you line yourself with Christ and the God energy.
Yes.
For your life to take a total turnaround.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to be completely all roses.
No.
But it's definitely going to have a whole lot different level of awakening to it, to where things go better, and they slowly get better and better and better.
Absolutely. There is that line, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And like you're saying, though, it's not, so there's a greatness within us. There's a power within us that can actually help us to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve. We're not limited beings. We're unlimited beings. But yes, that doesn't mean that now once we start doing these things, everything is going to work out perfectly or be in alignment. It's never gone like that. I mean, even going back to the, the Old Testament, where start with Abraham, who was like the founder of, basically the three major religions. He's sitting there, and then God just tells him, go. Just go. He doesn't tell him like where he's gonna go. Just go do something. Like, get out of here. And he follows that call. He follows that drive. But he's not sent off into the land of milk and honey. In fact, Abraham doesn't even get there. But he tells him, listen, if you go do this, you'll eventually become the father of many nations. Now, he wasn't even going to see that happen. And then he went in to where he thought he was being called, and he had to go into Egypt because the land was having a famine, so he couldn't even really feed himself. And then he had to lie that his wife was his sister. So it doesn't mean that life is going to be perfect and great.
Right.
But it just means that we are responsible for, doing things for our life, or trying to make it the way we want it to be.
Exactly. And I'll challenge everyone watching and listening right now that if our words are making you angry, and if you're sitting there going, I'm not a victim, what are they talking about? I've never been a victim, then there is absolutely something you need to look at deeper within yourself, because you are some form of a victim, or it wouldn't be resonating that hard with you. You wouldn't feel that much energy about it.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, sometimes, like you're saying also, they're so unconscious about being that victim that they're not even aware that they're in that mentality, that they're in that space, that they're in that role. But if you find yourself, blaming anything for the way your life is, then in some way you're in that space. You're in that zone.
Exactly. When you back away from something and you don't really take an initiative to change how it should be, like you just pull back, then you're starting to open that door up again to be the victim, because you're not taking responsibility for what's happening around you.
Right.
And it does take baby steps. There's like a scripture that says line upon line, precept upon precept. That's working your way out of a situation like that.
Yeah. And I believe one of the most powerful ways to really do that is really to be present to the moment. I believe that what matters most is the moment. And, see it for what it is. Accept it for what it is. Forgive the past for the way it is. Don't keep dwelling on, oh, this went bad or that went bad. Forgive it and try and move forward better. And it's in, the thoughts we think in the moment, the words we speak in the moment, the actions we take in the moment that actually set up things to either be good or bad in the quote unquote future. Mm-hmm. Because it's what we do right now that is actually bringing those consequences to us. So if we're moving through life totally unaware of the present moment experience and what life is presenting to us, then very frequently life isn't going to end up optimal the way maybe we would hope it would be, because we're missing all of those things that life is presenting.
Absolutely.
So one way to really help yourself in moving forward or getting out of that, victim mentality and trying to better your direction if you don't find that your life is the way you want it to be be more attentive and more aware of what you're actually doing and what you're actually thinking, speaking, saying, acting in the present moment experience.
Yes.
I think we need to take a quick break here. We'll continue this conversation when we come back, so please stay with us. Welcome back to Conscious Conversations. We're here today having a conversation about sort of victim mentality, taking responsibility for our lives. And before the break, I was sort of saying like a mature and spiritually wise person understands that the moment is very important, and how we act, think, what we do, what we say, all these sort of things are really important in the direction that our life is going to go and the consequences that come to us and what we think are our future. And they see the futility of blaming others and blaming things around them, circumstances and all of that, for the way their lives are. And in the East, they have a very common statement and a very common phrase that they use, that unless you do the right things won't happen for you. And it's basically summed up in, like if you want joy, if you want bliss, if you want peace, if you want happiness, if you want ecstasy, you have to do certain things in order for that to come your way. And there's a statement in the yogic philosophy which says, your life is your karma. Now, let me just break that down for a moment, because in the United States and in the West, some people hear this word karma and they think something very different, like a punishment system. But from yogic philosophy and Eastern philosophy, that's not what karma means. Karma actually translates into the word action. So your life is determined by your actions, is basically what your life is your karma means. So, or another way you can think about it is, my life is my making. What I'm doing through my thoughts, through my words, through my actions, through my deeds is bringing things to me. And they say that there's actually 4 sort of actions. There's the action of speech. There's the action of thoughts. There's the action of there's spiritual action, and there's physical action. And we're doing all of these things, whether we're conscious of it or not, when we're awake and when we're asleep. When we're asleep, we're thinking, we're dreaming, we're all those sort of things. And all of these actions are happening throughout our lives. The problem is, and I'll ask all of you out there, and I'll ask you as well, Wes, how much of our actions are we actually doing consciously? And I'll probably say that's like 1%. Like 99% of the time, we're unconscious. We're often dwelling in the past, projecting into the future, and we're just basically moving through life like zombies. Yeah. We're basically unconscious beings, just reacting to what life is around us. So we're not actually really conscious of how we're moving through life. Now, some of you might say, oh, no, I'm way more conscious than that. I'll give you 50% of the time you're conscious. I'll give them that. Right. Okay, so let's say 50% of the time you're conscious. That means half of your life you're moving through unconscious. So it means like your life is just an accident at that point. Now, I'll ask you this. Moving through life could be a metaphor for driving a car. It's taking us where we want to go. We're having these experiences. And so let's say you're driving a car, but only 50% conscious during driving the car. Chances are you're not going to end up where you're going to go. You might miss your exit, all this, all that. Or let's say this. Let's say you have a 1-hour trip to get somewhere, and 50% of the time your eyes are closed. What do you think is going to happen to you in that moment? Pretty bad things. You're either going to go off the road, you may even, God forbid, hit somebody or hit a tree or a barrier or something and die. Now, would you blame God? Would you blame life? Would you blame the barrier that you hit? Would you blame the tree? Would you say, oh, it's all the tree's fault. It's all the... Your eyes were closed. So where does the fault lie? The fault lies with you. Not the car, not God, not the tree. And that's what's happening with us in our life. Right. We're moving through life unconscious. And so how can we expect life to be the best we want it to be if we're unconscious of the choices and the actions and the energies that we do? So when the East says your life is your karma, they're telling you it's your making. And the best way you could make the best life for yourself is to be as conscious as you can to what you're doing.
Absolutely. I was so unconscious
Weren't we all?
that if it would rain in the morning, I would be depressed the whole day just because of the weather.
Yeah.
It would affect my mood.
Yes.
And I slowly got over that, but realizing something that simple would impact me. And when I first started my positivity journey, I didn't realize how bad off I was.
Okay.
I was so bad off that I didn't know anything to do that was right.
Right.
All I did know was not to do anything I had already been doing because it hadn't worked.
Well, that's a good realization.
That was so I grabbed anything that looked bright and shiny and had a promise that might make something different.
Right.
And that started my road to being responsible. And I was telling you earlier, it starts out with, self-esteem plays into this hugely.
Right.
If you have low self-esteem, you're automatically going to think everything's against you.
Yes.
So one of my first steps was I would just say I'm going to do a thing, like maybe work out for 30 minutes.
Perfect.
And I would keep the word to myself. I would do it. And as I started doing that with other things, I started feeling empowered,
Yes.
more respect for myself. And that started me realizing how much I had been a victim and didn't have to be. And it just grew from there.
Yeah, that's very true and very wise and a powerful realization. I truly believe that it's in responsibility. It's, when we begin to take responsibility for our life and things, that we actually find our purpose or meaning to life. Because prior to that, we think we're just like these things that are living under the law of fate or destiny. Well, I'm just destined to be this way.
Right.
And things are not going to get better, but that's not true.
I know it.
And so as soon as we begin to take responsibility, and even like you're saying, just make a choice to do something, whatever it might be, you're going to find a little bit more meaning because, oh, wow, you accomplished that, or you're doing this, and things are going to change. I think it was Albert Einstein, or I don't know I can't recall who the actual quote is attributed to. But it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And so if your life is not the way you want it to be and all you're doing is the same thing over and over and over again, how is it going to change?
Exactly.
So if you're just there constantly playing the victim, constantly saying, well, my life is this way because of everything else around me, I mean, it's not going to change for you.
No, you're stuck.
You're stuck.
And it's a sad situation because a lot of the Americans are stuck.
Absolutely.
And they don't realize it. And they feel very justified in blaming everything around them. And they'll even fight you tooth and nail if you happen to be around them and point out, well, hey, maybe it wasn't just that.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, watch out.
But yeah, yeah, that's when you get attacked. But I believe that, at least I've seen in my own mentoring of people and this and that there's really two things where they really got to let go of the blame of. One is they blame their parents.
Right.
Like, well, I'm this way. If I just had better parents, if I just had this, if my parents loved me more, my life would be so much better. But there was a book I read, and the author's name slips my mind right now, but he gave the stories of two NBA All-Stars. And this is a true story. They're true interviews. And the first NBA All-Star said, I'm here, I'm this, I attained this because of my parents. They loved me, they taught me how to be a good person, they supported me, they encouraged me in everything I did, and that's how I got to where I am. The second NBA All-Star said, I'm here because of my parents. I had the worst parents in the world, but I did not want to be where they were. I didn't want to be in the life that they had. So what I did was I went out and I worked hard and I was practicing 10 hours out of every day. And that's how I got to where I am. Two people with opposite ends of the poles.
Right.
One had loving parents. One had the total opposite of that wasn't from a good family and didn't get the emotional love, support, and that they needed.
Right.
But yet they both attained the same thing. So what is it? Well, it's the mindset. Right. It's our will. It's our determination. It's our ability to actually do something for ourselves and take responsibility that our life is going to get to where it is if we want it to. And then the second one is circumstances. A lot of people blame, well, it's the environment, it's the country I lived in, it's the city, it's the people, it's the president, it's whatever. And you'll never understand because you didn't come out of the country I came out of. But I encourage you to look And in all of those places that people will think is a bad place or a bad country or a bad circumstance or a bad environment or bad this, bad that, there are people who have made it out, and there are people who have achieved.
Yeah, you bring up a situation where one day I was in the car staring across the street on US 1, and I seen a guy on a bicycle dressed up, apparently looked like he was going to work, going one way, and I seen a homeless guy pulling a cart with his little bag, and he was all covered up and going the other direction. And I just stopped and looked at those two, and I thought, what is the difference in those two people?
Right.
It was nothing more than mindset.
Yes.
Because they both could have been homeless or they could have been empowered. It was what they fed themselves mentally about how things can change or be.
Right.
And it made a huge difference.
Absolutely. And if you do have a strong spiritual component to your life, I believe that you absolutely can pull yourself out of really anything, because you know that there's this power, there's this greatness that you can rely on, that you're not walking through life alone. Right. And so, you know, and maybe even at times you're being carried. And so I truly believe that that is a powerful component, at least from my opinion and my perspective, of pulling ourselves out of these things.
And this is where I do the soundbite for meditation. Because if you want to accelerate this process and discover the things that are stumbling blocks to you that are keeping you trapped in a victim mentality, meditation is hands down one of the fastest ways to have those things revealed to you in a way that you can actually see and understand and make sense out of it. Whereas before, you're just seeing a blame situation. This uncovers how these dynamics actually came to play. And you see, oh, it wasn't like what I thought.
Right.
Wow. You know, my parents just did the best they could. Now, I don't hate them anymore because they're just doing what they knew. I mean, I can't blame them because they were trying the best they could with the level of awareness that they had. But before that, I thought they knew everything and they should be perfect, and I was mad at them. So, yeah, meditation definitely accelerates that.
Absolutely, and I definitely second that motion, and I believe it does help us to be more clear in our life, more present to our life, and see the way that we maybe are tripping ourselves up. But thank you for the conversation today. It was always wonderful talking to you. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Leave your comments below about taking responsibility, what you think, you know, about the victim mentality and all of those sort of things, and maybe what you've done to pull yourself out of it. We truly appreciate you all. We love you all. And we hope that each and every one of your days is filled with an abundance of love, happiness, and peace. God bless.